We'll get started in just a few moments, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight. Some interesting stuff to share with everyone. Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is David Barrett, and I'm with MySafe LA. And tonight we're going to talk to you about a couple of important things to kind of round out the year. It's been an interesting year as it relates to wildfire. Can everybody hear me okay? Hands waving in the air? If you can you hear me okay? All right, good. So because it's December, there are folks who are traveling and so on, but that doesn't change the importance of what we're going to be talking about. And as we always do, we record these get-togethers. Something that will be new starting at our next meeting is that it will not only be an audio recording, but video recording as well. So all of our presentations will be available for people to see. We'll probably post them all to YouTube, but you'll have an opportunity to see kind of what we're doing whenever you need to. And as it is, you can go into the mysafela.org/wildfire section of our website, and you can see under Ready all of our previous get-togethers, except for October, which will be posted shortly. And we're going to have a big year next year. I can already feel it, a lot of stuff going on. So let's get started and talk about some of the things that are going on. Obviously, when we do this sort of a thing, the best place for us to start is just to make sure that we have the ground rules laid out. We don't sell anything related to what we're doing. If you want to listen to what we're doing, you want to just go to the website if you're listening to stuff from the past. So everyone kind of just remember we're all on the same team. We're all trying to work together. We don't always agree on everything, but it's a good idea to be able to share those ideas rather than to be at odds with one another. And if you want to learn much more about what we're doing in the county of Los Angeles relative to wildfire, you can either go to mysafela.org/wildfire, or you can go directly to wildfirela.org, wildfirela.org. And we update that site continually, and there's a lot of good information in there. So our agenda for tonight, some opening remarks, which I'll make momentarily. Carl Ginsberg, our county coordinator for wildfire, will give you a little update on where we are as of December. We're going to talk about wildfire insurance, some very important stuff to share with you about that, which I know is a hot topic for everyone. Then we're going to try and solve a problem. We have all year long had a lot of people asking us, do I become a fire safe council? Do I become a NFPA Firewise USA site? What's the difference? Why do I do that? So we're going to clarify that and try and help everyone understand the importance of it and how important it will be not only for us, but for every battalion commander and deputy chief in not only the LA City Fire Department, but all of the regional training group, the LA Area Fire Chiefs group of entities. In the event that there is some kind of an incident, that they will be able to use this data effectively to assist them as they deploy their resources. Finally, we'll talk briefly about 2024 and wish everyone happy holidays. So Just before Carl gets into providing you with his update on what we're doing as a Fire Safe Council, I just want to mention that this marks the end of the first year in which we've been focusing specifically on wildfire mitigation and resilience in the county. And we've been careful not to go too quickly. So we don't want to outrun our supply chain, so to speak. And what's really interesting is I don't think if we were running 150 miles an hour that we would still be able to encompass all of the things that need to be done, all of the people that need help, and all of the issues that exist. So it's been a tremendous year of learning. It's also been a tremendous year relative to collaborating with our partners in the Los Angeles City Fire Department, and much more recently, but just as importantly, with the LA County Fire Department. So we're going to cover some very interesting things that in some ways I don't think anyone's heard about before tonight. So this is one of the reasons why we like to do these events, and often we will have a guest speaker, and we will also talk about a fire that's occurred in the past so that we can take the lessons learned from it and apply it to what we're doing today and in the future. Doesn't seem like talking about houses burning down is a good idea for the holiday season. So we're not going to do that part tonight, but we are still going to talk about some pretty important things. First of all, though, we want to make sure that we bring everyone up to date on where we stand now as compared to the beginning of the year. So Carl, if you wouldn't mind, unmute yourself and go ahead and give us a little bit of an update on what's going on.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, it has been a busy year. Hopefully next year we'll be more busy as we add homeowners associations and other organizations to our count of our client base, shall we call it. We have approximately 30 HOAs that we're working with now, which represents 14 to 18,000 homes, maybe 50,000 people. That number is a little bit hard to nail down. Depending on where you look at it, on the census, it's one thing, and then you see some outdated information. So it's a rough estimate. Our target for next year, since we've done 30 this year, is probably to double that amount. And now that we're going to start talking about Firewise USA, that's another avenue for our clientele to look at. It's in some ways easier to accomplish and has benefits that are more in line with what our homeowners need as far as insurance discounts, et cetera, which Dave's going to talk about later. We did 3 safety fairs in the last month or so. Very successful, good attendance. We handed out a lot of materials. We just changed our show a little bit, and we brought along a TV. And we were showing what it looks like if a home is not hardened and there's a brush fire with wind. And so that was a grab to get people to come over to our second booth that we had. And at that other booth, we had a variety of screening implements that you can put on your house to harden it so that the ember cast from a wind-blown fire can't get into your house, because that's something that we have to protect against. We don't want to get those hot ember casts into the house, because the danger of it burning down the entire house becomes very critical. So we showed those, and people were very interested on how to get them done, who can do them, and we're going to provide more information on the different options that are available, and a list of accredited contractors who can help them out with getting those things installed. Even yesterday, David and I were at a assembly meeting down over in Pasadena, and the insurance commissioner was there, and we happened to hear a woman talking about the problem she's having in her neighborhood with her insurance and getting proper coverage. So I've emailed her today. I've offered to meet with her soon in the beginning of next year. So it seems that everywhere we go, there are people that are having the same problem. And the more that we engage ourselves with outside activities, we keep running into more people. So it's adding to our client base and giving us an opportunity to help more people to get their homes hardened, get defensible space, and maybe get some relief on their insurance. So it's always a good thing when we go out. We do learn a lot. We learned some interesting things from the commissioner yesterday. What else we have? We're also moved. We have a new client, shall we call her? It's a small community of 160 units, which is in the county of LA. It's down near Malibu. Um, as an entree, we're going to do some smoke alarm installations for them in their neighborhood and get everybody protected that way. And then we're going to talk about and do a presentation on Fire Safe Council and Firewise USA. So again, who knows where you're going to run into people. This was a referral from another homeowners association. So if you are an HOA and you know people that are living in another HOA that are in the wildland interface, send them to us. We're glad to have the referrals. We're also, in addition, we started doing smoke alarms in the county. It's not related to wildfire, but in El Segundo, we did smoke alarms about 4 weeks back, and had a great reception by the neighbors there. Everybody there was absolutely friendly, that's going to be, and we put in a large quantity of smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, and they invited us back 2 weeks later. So the support that we're starting to get from LA County is going to enlarge our footprint and enlarge our ability to help people out in areas outside the city of LA. And there is a lot more county out there than there is city of the city of LA. There's a lot of areas out there that are in the WUI. So it's a big target going forward for next year and the year after that. That's pretty much it for the moment, David. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Next steps that are going to be happening during the next 45 days or so. We're going to be completing several threat assessments for different homeowners associations and reviewing the HOA plans that are going to be then implemented into our new mapping system. We will actually be nominating the first couple of fire safe councils, and we will be announcing those homeowners associations that are actually in the process to become NFPA Firewise sites. We're going to talk more about the difference between them and why you need to be concerned about it one way or the other. And should you do both? Should you do one? Why and how? We're going to cover all that very shortly. But right now, the most important thing that I think we want to talk about in the short term is insurance. And our insurance update, I think, is pretty interesting. Most of you are aware, particularly if you've attended previous MySafe LA Fire Safe Council town hall meetings. We've had the local rep for the State Insurance Commission speak to everyone. We try and talk about it as often as it's reasonable. In September, the governor delivered a couple of executive orders related to insurance, and the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, has been diligently dealing with the overall issue of insurance from the perspective of a state agency. I think that's a really important issue. As Carl mentioned yesterday, the State Assembly held a hearing on wildfire insurance. It was local, it was in Pasadena. And the State Insurance Commissioner, Mr. Lara, was there to present his strategy for changing how wildfire insurance will work in the future. This is directly related to the mandates that were set forth on September the 21st. But he was trying to give them kind of a calendar and some of the targets that were there. The multiple State Assembly people who were part of this insurance committee asked a lot of good questions and got some answers in some cases. But these are kind of the overall wildfire insurance issues, and we just want to talk about them briefly. I typically hate reading from a list because people know how to read, but I want to be able to give you a little bit of feedback, right? So currently there are fewer options and there are higher costs. That's something that kind of plagues us, and it's not an easy thing to get around. There are people who have spent a lot of effort hardening their homes and they still get dropped. And, so just to give you an idea, State Farm had a market share in California of 21%. They are looking at almost a 30% rate increase if they come back to the state. CSAA was a small by contrast, organization. They have a market share of under 7%, but they anticipate still raising their rates by nearly 20%. Chubb is gone, even though they only are at 2%. Travelers, 4%. So most of these entities are smaller players in the overall wildfire space. There's 12, including Chubb, that are really targeted by the state in terms of we want your business and we want you to come back. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of moments, but key thing here, outdated regulations. One of the reasons that insurance companies have been abandoning California isn't just because of the wildfire losses that were incurred between 2017 and 2020. A lot of it also had to do with the fact that when they applied to get modifications to their rates or to their territories or to the contribution that would be made by the state, and how that would work under certain situations. So when there's a significant wildfire, a federal declaration of disaster can be declared. When the fire department asks for that, the short term that they use, what you may hear is an FMAG. When that is issued, that opens the doors to a number of different things. And if you live in an area where a disaster declaration has been made, the state is now enforcing a 1-year moratorium on being discontinued. So whatever insurance you have, whether or not your home has been damaged, you cannot be canceled for a minimum of 1 year. It is designated by zip code. So if half your zip code is within the disaster area and half is not, the entire zip code is considered to be within that. So that's one of the things that is an issue that has been in place for the last couple of years that is supportive. And anyone who has lived through Woolsey or Saddle Ridge or Getty or any of the other wildfires that have been in the Southern California area, if you're in those areas, all of those had FMAGs assigned to them. All of those, another way of putting it is a disaster declaration, which means that for a year following the incident being completed, then they had to be able to receive insurance from the existing coverage provider. Overall, though, the system is more than 35 years old. And the process of getting any kind of applications for rate changes or things done is taking years, not weeks or months. And because it's taking years, insurance companies are saying, the heck with it, we're going to go. So outdated regulations are a behind the scenes thing that people may not be aware of, but it is a tremendous burden on the insurance commission, as well as on CAL FIRE, Cal OES, and regional and local fire departments. The growing climate threat is an interesting issue as well, because we are now seeing, we're not talking about the causes of it, we're simply talking about the fact that climate is changing right now, and we're having more extended periods of heat and low humidity and wind, and typically, and also much more rainfall during the winter, particularly while we have El Nino. So these dramatic changes, and this last year was a little interesting, and the coming year may be similar. And we're hoping that it is relative to wildfire activity. But climate change is a real thing happening right now, and it doesn't mean that wildfires are going to be better or worse. It means that the conditions for wildfire are going to be worse. And that's an important distinction, because one of our tasks overall is to reduce the threat that people may have. Insurance providers have abandoned or paused California underwriting. You know about that. You may not know that California is the largest insurance market in the United States and the 4th largest in the world. That's kind of interesting to me, at least, and to our shop, because what it's telling us is that insurance companies have a tremendous opportunity to make money in this state because it is the largest market. But if they're leaving, then they must have reasons related to that. And we've been talking about that in several of our past meetings. But the fact that this is such a large market and people are leaving and people are unhappy, and that consumers are not being well protected, it's a juxtaposition of different chess pieces that have all fallen over on the chessboard. There's no distinction, by the way, between high-risk homes and high-risk fire areas. So you may, as an individual, get insurance for your home, and your insurance carrier may say the risk of fire to your home is low, But if your HOA attempts to get wildfire insurance, we just call it fire insurance for now, the same home could be listed as a high risk. So there's no consistency, and that is a further thing that is creating difficulty for thousands and thousands of people within the state, and even thousands and thousands within the city and county of LA. People who've hardened their homes, they've taken the effort to harden their homes, they're still being dropped. And that's a terrible thing when you actually make a financial investment into reducing the ignitability of your home and slowing the spread of fire by creating defensible space, and you still get discontinued. And that's one of the things that we're most upset about, and we're going to be addressing that a little bit further momentarily. Insurers who continue to write policies are charging absurd fees. So the woman that Carl was talking about, 70 homes, they went from $45,000 on a policy that they were then dropped. They applied to 46 different insurers. All 46 turned them down and would not insure them. So they went to the California Fair Plan. And the Fair Plan's policy bid for 70 homes was $362,000 for 1 year. And so this woman is saying it's supposed to be the Fair Plan. That doesn't sound very fair. So tremendous confusion and lack of consistency. And finally, one of the most important things is the mandates that Governor Newsom established on the 21st of September, and that the Insurance Commission is pushing forward, which we'll talk about their strategy momentarily. If we have a catastrophic wildfire, it's likely that all of those promises and all of those mandates will go by the wayside. If there's tremendous loss to existing insurance carriers and their policies, as well as to homeowners, then everything that's been, explained that needs to happen during the coming year is likely to not happen. So this is a shot taken from the council chamber in Pasadena where the hearing took place. Carl and I attended it, and we had a chance to talk with a number of folks that were there. The commissioner spoke well, and he had 4 key points that he wanted to make. One was to streamline the rate application process. So what he's really saying there is they want to renew and redo all of the technology. So when an insurance company makes an application, it will be much easier for them to submit a complete application. One of the big challenges now is that many applications are incomplete. And so they get kicked out by the insurance commission, and they go back and forth, round and around, and it takes years to get to the end of the road, and then nobody's happy. New risk management tools, including catastrophe modeling and net costs. So they're trying to figure out what are the chances that something will happen and why it will happen and so on. What are the things that are going on that we can do looking forward using artificial intelligence or machine learning? By the way, those are 2 completely different things. What can we do to make sure that we have a better plan in place to make homeowners less at risk and the chances of their losses being reduced? The third thing is to insist that insurance providers write a minimum of 85% of homes and businesses in distressed areas. So that means if an insurance company, any insurance company, is going to write 100 policies in the state of California, 85 of them have to be in either a fire or flood or earthquake distressed zone. And that leaves them only 15 that can be in a low risk, low cost area. Now, one of the things that we'll talk about in a few minutes is how tangible is it to make that kind of a mandate, and how likely is it to succeed? And then the fourth point is to strengthen the FAIR Plan. If there was, for example, a Woolsey fire again next year, the FAIR Plan would go bankrupt. And so it's really important that they increase the resources and capability of the FAIR Plan. Keep in mind that 10 years ago, there were about 50 employees and about 35,000 policyholders. Today, there are 340,000 policyholders and over 200 employees, and they are short-staffed by about half. So it's very difficult for them to be able to even look at policies and underwrite them because they don't have underwriters or actuaries to be able to manage some of this stuff the way that they'd like. So they're hiring temps and they're doing all kinds of short-term responsive issues. But at the same time, they're struggling and going from, a small number in the tens of thousands up to more than 340,000 is a big deal and a big number. So the big question is, if we look at those 4 key strategy points, and he spoke for 45 minutes, which obviously I don't want to do, you'll all be gone. So it's important for us to talk about the key issues and how we can make that useful to you. And the question is, will the strategy work? Will what the insurance commissioner said, will it actually take place? So before we answer the question, let's talk briefly about what people want. And this ranges from a high value community like Bel Air or Brentwood or Pacific Palisades to areas that are low income, such as, in Pacoima, Newhall, places where there is not a lot of high value homes, but there's a lot of people who are just as risk and who care just as much about their own safety. So stability is huge, right? If you knew that your insurance was going to cost $10 every year, you could plan for it. If it was going to cost $300 every year, you could plan for it. Whatever it is, the idea that it goes from $3 to $20, and I'm of course using silly numbers, more realistically, if it goes from $800 to $7,000, that's untenable. And it's untenable because you had no idea it was going to do that. So stability is extremely important. Competition, hugely important, right? So if the FAIR plan has by default become the primary source for insurance versus the secondary or the last resort for insurance, that's a problem. That's something that is going to delay your ability to properly plan for your annual home safety and insurance. So getting off the FAIR plan is a hugely important deal. But if there's no stability and there's no competition and nobody will insure you, then you're not going to get off the FAIR plan. If you're stuck with the FAIR plan, then what is fair? Fair is supposed to be fair, not unfair. So there needs to be some understanding about changes there. Realistic evaluations, hugely important thing, and it's something we're working on a lot in terms of education and awareness in the meetings that we're having with insurance companies in the first quarter of 2024. But if an insurance company, simply looks at the CAL FIRE very high fire severity map and determines that any home that is in red or yellow areas is at risk and therefore is not insurable, that doesn't take into account what may actually be happening within that very high fire severity zone. As an example, I'll point to the woman who spoke yesterday that Carl mentioned again. 70 homes, just under 60 years of an organization, not one claim related to fire loss of any kind during that time period, yet they cannot be insured. So evaluations need to change, and they need to be done in a way that makes sense to everyone. Most importantly, if you can insure your home as an individual, an HOA or neighborhood council for that matter, or a property owners association, any of those entities that are organized with about a group of homes working together, they should be able to become insured. And right now they can't, and that's wrong. So here's some of the challenges, which I think, I don't want to sugarcoat any of the things that happen. I think that a lot of the things that the commissioner talked about are good ideas. I think it's possible that people will start to offer insurance again in the state of California, but it's not going to be inexpensive. It's going to be insanely expensive. The fees that everyone will pay for insurance will be through the roof. And there's no guarantee that insurance firms are going to come back, right? So this is a structure. So imagine building a football stadium and putting a brand new field in and great seating and concession stands and so on, but there's no teams necessarily that are going to come and play there. So the insurance commissioner is guessing, probably optimistically and realistically, but guessing nonetheless, that because this is the largest market, that insurance companies will have to be here. disastrous wildfire could upend all of this. So if there's $1 billion in losses, or even $500 million in losses from a wildfire, everyone will panic in the insurance side of the equation and go, hide under a rock. And then the other thing that's really important related to this is all of these mandates that have been made are asking for these changes to be in place by December of 2024. So what happens between now and December of 2024? Are insurance companies going to start offering policies now, or are they going to wait until the last minute? Are they going to wait and see how the wildfire season unwinds? Are they going to wait and see if we have the rains that are projected with El Nino? We don't know. And because we don't know, that goes to the lack of stability and all the other concerns that are out there. And there's also the issue of insurance maximums, right? So one of the things that the commissioner is very proud of is that the FAIR Plan has increased the maximum level of insurance coverage to $20 million, but it's for a business, not for a home. The maximum amount of coverage for a home is $3 million. And there's plenty of places within Los Angeles County where that would be okay, but there's many other places within the county. And I see the Bel Air Association is online tonight, and there's a couple folks from Mandeville Canyon and from Mosman and the Sepulveda Pass. Those homes are all worth more than $3 million. So that ends up that you have a home that's underinsured. So insurance maximums need to be an issue that everyone takes into account as well. So this is what MySafe LA is going to be doing relative to the overall insurance picture, now that you've heard what I've been sharing. First of all, we're going to make monthly updates a part of each virtual or even live, because we're looking at doing a few of those, town halls during 2024. So we want to create a timeline that goes through the year, and through each month provide you with information related to the progress. We're going to tell you about insurance companies that are coming back, how to contact them, what's happening with the insurance commission, what other stakeholders are happening. We're going to be in touch with all of the assembly members that are part of the insurance committee for the state assembly, and we're going to be able to communicate with them back and forth about what we're doing in Los Angeles County and in Riverside County. Those are the two counties that we're responsible for. We're going to have that active engagement that we've talked about, which is so important in terms of communication. One of the things that happens when you are busy, and everyone's life is busy, but if you're a firefighter in particular, you put something on the calendar and you go and you attend to that, but then you've got the next thing on the calendar to deal with, and it's kind of difficult to keep up to date. So you need a source of information that is easily referable to, that you can easily access, and that's key to what we're going to be providing. We're also going to be tracking what's going on with individual insurance providers so that people understand with that. And we're going to work to change the landscape of insurance to mimic the automobile insurance market, right? Think about this. If you want to drive a car in the state of California and you're able to get a driver's license and you're able to get access to a car that you lease or rent or own, and you don't have accidents, you must be able to get insurance. It's a state law. We need to do the same kind of thing for wildfire, and I hope everyone agrees with that. If you have a home and you've taken the steps to reduce the home's ignitability and to slow the spread of wildfire in a wind-driven event, you should qualify for insurance. End of story. And that's something that we believe in firmly, and that we're going to try and see if we can't make some progress on. If you have questions about this, we're going to have a Q&A in about 10-15 minutes that people can be able to pay attention to and participate in. So it's really, really important to understand kind of how these distinctive things go on. So the next thing for us to talk about is our wildfire resilience overall. And one of the most important things about wildfire resilience is what are you supposed to do as a group? And what we've discovered during the last year, Carl, myself, and other members of our team, we have found that homeowners associations are actually very excited about participating. And some of them want to participate slowly and some of them want to participate rapidly. But as an association, they're very engaged. However, many of the homeowners that live within those homeowners associations, they A, don't know anything about what's going on. B, they may not like the HOA. They may have an adversarial relationship with it, or they may have a disconnected relationship with it. One of the things that we did recently was we had a wildfire safety fair in Brentwood. About 6 different HOAs got together, several hundred people attended, and we found that most of them knew absolutely nothing about wildfire preparedness, even though they lived in the WUI and in the very high fire severity zone. So a great opportunity exists for us to create incentive so that people can become educated. But right now, we have to work with HOAs to make sure that if they're going to be engaged, that we make all of their homeowners equally aware of what's going on and why and how things get happen. So we've been talking about 2 kinds of things that you could do as an HOA or as a group of homeowners. And those are to either become an NFPA FireWise USA site or a fire-safe council. And the big question is, what should we do? We have a workbook. Our workbook is specific to a fire-safe council. If you're going to become a FireWise USA site, that application is online and you don't need to have a workbook because the online application essentially is a workbook, which is a really interesting thing that we'll talk about a little bit more. First, let's talk about what the differences are between them, because one of the most common questions that Carl and others in our organization that I get is like, well, which one should we do and why? So let's start with the NFPA's FireWise USA program. One of the most important things to know is that, and we've mentioned this 1 or 2 times in the past, but the NFPA is like the leading insurance policy organization in the United States relative to disaster readiness, and particularly fire. Having said that, there's only one person in the FireWise USA department, and she is overwhelmed with stuff to do. So they're partnering wherever they can. And in the state of California, the NFPA has partnered with CAL FIRE, which is the state's firefighting agency and one of the primary entities supporting the work that we do. And we're working very closely with CAL FIRE on a number of different issues. But as an example, tomorrow is the deadline for submitting renewals if you are an existing FireWise USA site. So just up to Christmas and then following Christmas, everybody who's responsible within CAL FIRE, they're typically battalion chiefs, some of them are captains, are all going to be congregated in Sacramento looking at hundreds of these applications for renewal, and a majority of them are in Northern California and Central California, but they typically reject about 40% of those applications that have to be fixed or have to be updated in one way, shape, or form. So it's a serious kind of a process to become a FireWise USA site, but the benefits are key. And the most important one, of course, is a discount in insurance. And the other ones are that your home is going to be less likely to burn if you take the steps that the NFPA wants you to take. So a couple of things that are really important here. First of all, you do not need to be a nonprofit. There's no issue related to that. You need to have at least 8 homes and no more than 2,500 homes. But one of the terrific ideas here is, and I'll use Mandeville Canyon as an example, is that if you have an HOA, you could actually split it up into multiple groups of homes and have multiple FireWise sites. So in Mandeville Canyon, there's Lower Mandeville, Middle Mandeville, and Upper Mandeville. So Upper Mandeville is the group of homeowners that are most frightened about being stuck because there's only one route out, and telephone communications are very poor and notifications are iffy. So if they became a FireWise USA site, and maybe it was only 400 or 500 homes, which is still a lot of homes, they can do that separate from other groups within Mandeville Canyon. The application is online, and here's another area where people have been confused, and we want to try and clear things up. Number one, and it's really, I think, an important issue, everyone feels they have to get all of their stuff together and then fill out an application because they've done everything, and then they're done and they wait for an answer. That's not really how it should work or how it does work. If you want to become a FireWise USA site, and we're in the process of getting a number of you folks set up, and for those of you in an HOA that's been working with us, this is our big January push, is to get you started with your application. They are complicated and complex. So we've gone through it, we understand it really well. So one of our folks will be there to help, but key is getting the process started. If it takes you 4 months or 6 months to complete your application, that's okay. A lot of people are unaware that that's okay. And so knowing that starting, just like any exercise program, diet program, anything that we're doing to better ourselves or to be healthy or what have you, starts with getting started. So key to this is starting the application. There are a number of requirements within the application, including a per home requirement, meaning that for every home that's going to be included in the FireWise USA site, a minimum of 1 hour of effort by the homeowner or by someone responsible to the homeowner, which could be an HOA person and it could be one of our people, actually takes action to inspect the home and to do things to make the home more resilient to wildfire spread. So that's why I say that we can assist. We're very aware of how this works and what we can do. It'll help with peace of mind. It'll help with insurance discounts. It'll help with getting you ready to be renewed. But you need to have a number of staged progress elements, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. These things are all part of what you need to accomplish if you're going to be a FireWise USA site. And once you become one, you'll actually need to reapply every year and apply to the plan. But as an example, I talked about HOAs that are on board, but the homeowners may not be. Well, we can work with an HOA and identify 15 or 20 homes and start with them, inspect all 20 of them, get them all on board with home hardening, and that group becomes a FireWise USA site. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Bottom line, anyone living in the WUI, living in a very high fire severity zone, should become an NFPA FireWise USA site. Whether it's 8 homes or 2,000 plus homes, everyone should do it. And you should do it in a way that engages all of your homeowners. We're here to help with that. That's what we're going to help you get done. There is no financial requirement to join, but there is also, and this is key as we move forward, no opportunity at grant money, right? So the opportunity financially is to get a discount, right? Typically, the discounts will range from 7 to 15%, and it will also be related to how insurance rates go up. So you may see that your rate goes up, let's say 10%, you may get 3 to 5% discount back, so your net increase is, let's say, 5%. So knowing that, it helps, but it isn't an overall solution. What's important when we look moving forward about fire safe councils, and we've talked about this with a number of HOAs that are nonprofit organizations, whether it's 501c4, 501c7, 501c5, whatever it is, you must be a nonprofit if you're going to become a fire safe council. The big issue with fire safe councils is that you can apply for grants. And I'm going to wrap this up with an interesting opportunity for everyone. There's an unlimited number of homes, right? So there's no, I think they want you to have at least 8 to begin with, but you can have as many as you want. You must have a wildfire committee dedicated, which is part of the board of directors for the nonprofit. You must conduct monthly or bi-monthly meetings. You must have specific action items that you follow. And some of the good news there is that once you're doing those things, MySafe LA can designate you as a fire safe council, and we're going to announce the first couple of them beginning of the year. But one of the things that people may not know about is that you can also, if you're interested in grants, find someone to be a fiscal sponsor. In other words, an entity that will apply for the grant on your behalf. And if the grant is awarded, then that grant money will flow through that fiscal sponsor. So I'm going to go back to FireWise USA where it says no nonprofit required. If you've got 20 or 40 or 400 homes and you want to apply for grants, you need to talk to your county coordinator, in this case, Carl, who's on this call, or one of our support people, because MySafe LA can be your fiscal sponsor. So if you want, for whatever reason, to have access to grants and you're not an organized nonprofit organization, that doesn't prevent you from the opportunity at getting grants. And I think that's a hugely important issue, because it means that anyone can then be in the game. The overall objectives for both of those programs are simple. Lower the ignitability of your home. Slow the pace of wildfire. A lot of people look at these things as no, no, no danger, right? There's no risk. And that's just not accurate. So let's be clear about the two objectives here. If you take steps to harden your home, you're reducing the chances of it igniting, of it actually catching fire. That doesn't mean you're eliminating the chances. You can do that. You can completely eliminate the chance of your home catching fire. It must be built out of concrete. It must have no windows. And so there's a number of things that just make it unrealistic. So for the average home, you want to do things with roofing and vents and windows and other things that we've talked about before and which we could talk about again in the future, which make ember cast, those embers that fly through the air, falling trees that are burning, any number of things where fire can encroach upon your structure. You want to reduce the chance that the structure will actually ignite. And I see all the time people not paying attention to that. I'm not going to call anyone out on the call here, but I know some people that have spent $50,000 putting a sprinkler system on their roof, which is going to take from the fire department's water supply. And while that sprinkler system is on the roof, there are tree branches hanging directly onto the roof, and the rain gutters are full of needles. So something that would cost, $300-400 to fix is ignored, and $50,000 has been spent for something that's not going to help. And by the way, in a wind-driven wildfire, if they got sprinkler heads going on the roof, all of that water will evaporate before it touches anything. So it's completely useless in a very hot, smoky, wind-driven environment. So lowering ignitability, key. When we talk about defensible space, it's a really important term. It's defensible. It means that the objective is to slow the spread of a wind-driven fire. It does not mean to stop the spread. We need to slow the spread so that firefighters can establish structure defense teams. They can get in place. And if you've properly defended your property, that will give them areas within which to work. If your brush is overgrown and you haven't complied with the state or local brush clearance codes and fire codes, they're not going to have anywhere to work, and they're going to have to be at a distance. They're going to have to be on the street or at some other place using wagon batteries or relying on air assets or something to fight that fire. And it's going to be much less likely that they can actually defend or protect your home. So defensible space, slow the spread. Home hardening, reduce the ignitability. It's a very simple equation, actually, but it's not so easy for people to actually understand that those are things that they have to do. And this is not the fire department's responsibility. It's not the emergency management department's responsibility. It's not the city's responsibility. It's yours. Those things are the role that you play. And if you play your role, then the fire department, all the area fire departments, the state fire department, they're all going to collaborate and throw everything that they have at saving your home and your property. So these are some of the things we're doing to help, all right? So organizing within each community, assisting with online applications to FireWise, assisting with creating all of the objectives to become a fire safe council, organizing a meeting, creating agendas, conducting and attending those meetings, providing speakers. We are doing home inspections related to wildfire. And our folks are going through continuing education to become more and more qualified at a state level and a federal level to do this. We have a speakers bureau, a number of subject matter experts that will come and speak to your homeowners association or to your group of homeowners. Home hardening assistance. We have a trailer that is specifically designed to transport all the materials for defensible space and home hardening and to show people how it works and to get people going and to explain how it's not necessarily a $20,000 investment. It might be a $400 or $500 investment to get your home going. And of course, one of the most important things, a monthly education and information exchange. We need ongoing information, even when we're not in a high wildfire season. So August to December, high fire season typically. The rest of the year is still dangerous, but it doesn't matter what time of year. We only take January off because people are hungover from the holidays, and we want to take some time to get things moving forward. And we have a lot of pretty amazing things looking forward for 2024. We're going to move on to Q&A in just a couple of moments, but just take a look at this image of homes on the west side. It's gorgeous in the sense that it's all green. But one of the dangers of our climate, and it's not just climate of the last couple of years, it's the climate in Southern California overall, is that when we have specific winds, Devil winds, Santa Ana winds, in Riverside, there's the sundowner effect that comes over the hills from the national forest. All of this stuff that's full of moisture can be dried out in a day or two. And so we can go from a lush, green, happy environment to kindling very, very quickly. It all depends what it is and depends what type of vegetation, trees and so on. But overall, flashy fuels in particular, light flashy fuels, can be dried out in a day, absolutely. So this is a beautiful image, but it also underscores, and this was taken just 2 months ago, it underscores how important it is for us to take what we've been talking about tonight to heart. So before we open it up to questions and any comments that anyone wants to make, our virtual town hall is not going to take place in January. We skip every January. So the next one's going to be February the 15th, all at 7 p.m. as they always are. And we're going to cover the following things: 2024 wildfire forecast. We're going to talk about communication solutions, different ways where you can make sure that you're getting properly notified of a wildfire, even if your phone doesn't work. We're going to talk about Firewise sites and make some announcements. And we're going to talk about homeowners' progress reports, who's actually doing the work and what is it leading to and that sort of thing. I think it's going to be very important stuff, and we should be much closer to having our regular audience of 80 to 100 people. So we're looking forward to that. And if you want to learn more, of course, the LAFD's fire website is a terrific resource, mysafela.org or wildfirela.org. These update all the time and change. Some information is duplicated or is the same. Ours is really oriented at the homeowner, the resident, and we leave the policy issues and so on to the state and to the local agencies. But if you haven't been to the website, please go and check it out. You know, there's no cost for anything that we do, and there's a lot of information there that I think you'll find very useful. So as we look forward to 2024 and so on, let's see if anyone has anything they want to say or if they have questions to ask before we wrap it up for the evening. And I know that I was pretty verbose in what I was talking about, so everyone may be good. But if anyone has a question, please use the raise hand option, and we will we'll see what we can do to help make sure that you're getting helped. Anybody? Is there anything you want to add about what's going on at the beginning of the year, Chief Legal, or are you good? Okay.
Ray had a comment about his insurance on the chat. Maybe you want to see how that worked out.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Ray?
No, it was just a short 2-page form that came from the insurance company. My agent helped me fill it out. He and I went through it. He actually filled it out on his end and sent it in. And very shortly, I was notified of the refund for what they called wildfire mitigation. It was typically hardening your home type things. I have covered my vents with smaller aperture covers. I've covered my gutters with gutter guards and stuff like that. They'd asked about how far things were growing from the chimney, from the roof, and so on. Simple questions, easy to fill out. And it was a 5% refund based on the entire homeowner policy cost. There was an additional 2% available if I was part of a Firewise council. It didn't say anything about the other type, FireSafe Council. It was just Firewise. So obviously I couldn't get that. not much, but you know, it covered half the cost of the increase between 2022 and 2023.
Thanks, Rick.
Are you willing to tell us the name of your insurance provider?
Prefer not to.
Okay. So another question that was posted in the chat is how do you move non-operative vehicles from a narrow street? And there's actually a process. You can't just say this vehicle doesn't work, so please tow it away. The first step is the vehicle has to be cited. And once it's cited, if it's sitting there for 72 hours, then a request can be made through the Department of Transportation or the police department. And depending on resources, they hopefully will remove the vehicle. But it has to be, I guess, proven is kind of the simple term, that the vehicle is non-operative and can't be moved. So hopefully that helps a little bit in terms of understanding the steps. That doesn't guarantee that you get the vehicle cited and you ask for help, that it will be moved. But I should mention that there are a lot of vacancies in all kinds of departments within the city of LA right now. Fire department is down several hundred members. Police department is getting closer to being properly staffed. They have a lot more applications than they've had in the last 3 years. But Department of Transportation, Department of Aging, all of the different entities that make up the city of Los Angeles family have openings. And if you have a skill set and you're interested in working for the city, this is a great time to apply. But overall, this is an issue that makes it more difficult for the city to respond to certain things as fast as they ordinarily might, and certainly not as fast as they would like to. Okay, last call. Alma, unmute yourself and say hello. There you go.
Okay, great. My name is Palma Vincenti, and I live in Chevy Chase Canyon in Glendale, a very high fire danger area. And I'm also a board member of the Chevy Chase Estates Association. One of our directors emailed me this morning, and I'm going to read this to you. He said, our annual home insurance bill increased by 130%. This does not include earthquake insurance. Our coverage is through farmers. So I'm getting more and more people letting me know and asking desperately to find out, is there anybody other than Fair Plan who will cover me? I just think 130%, that's a real whopper.
Yeah, it is. And we've actually seen instances that are 5 times that.
Wow. I'll tell them that. That should make them feel better.
Yeah, it's crazy, Palma. Farmers' market share in California is 14.9%.
Oh.
And the Insurance Commission improved a rate increase from them of 17.7% over previous years. But that, if your insurance is $100, then it should become $117, not $400 or $500. So it's really important that we have these stories to share with them. One of the things that I think that we're really interested in doing is collecting a whole series of letters from homeowners that are, I would simply address them to the insurance commissioner, and we'll CC the governor in our next town hall meeting in February. We're going to explain to people how to do that and how to provide us with the letters. And we're going to bundle them and we're going to send them to everybody. I think it's a great way if we can get 400 or 500 letters that go to the governor and that go to the insurance commissioner. It's not going to change anything, so let's know that up front. But what it is going to do is going to shine a light on the number of people who vote in this state. The insurance commissioner position is an elected position. And, I think particularly in an election year, it's worthwhile to note that your constituents are looking for help and they're depending on you to provide that help. Was that helpful to you, Palma?
Thank you. Definitely. I'll bring that to our board.
And Glendale falls within our jurisdiction. We have a long-standing relationship with Glendale Fire Department, and We're going to be doing some very specific activities related to wildfire in your canyon and several others during 2024. So we look forward to hopefully meeting you in person.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Merry Christmas
Merry Christmas to
to
you.
all of you.
And a happy holiday, regardless of what celebration you practice or faith you follow. But what we could all look forward to is a happy 2024. And
You're
I
right.
hope that the coming year is one where we have no wildfire activity, where our firefighter partners are able to staff up and right the ship in a way that makes them feel happy about coming to work every day, doing what they do best. And they, no matter what the conditions are, they are always available and ready to respond to protect you 24/7, 365. So thanks to our LAFD and LA County Fire partners and to everyone. So this is a conclusion of our December the 14th meeting. Stay well, stay safe, and if anyone needs to reach out to us, our website has multiple ways to contact us. You can always call, you can always email, whatever you need to do to get in touch. Don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. So everyone have a good night and thank you.
Good night.